air reserve. That's what our vibrators are set on. Once you hit 25%, they start vibrating. What does the new standard say? 33%. So again, it's because people are looking at air management, and let's prevent those deaths before we even get there. The work rest cycle is directly connected to air management. We said on deck replaces RIC crews. Did we get rid of RIC? We still trained as much on RIC as we ever did, except we called it on deck. On deck helps you manage these two things. Do RIC companies help you manage air supplies? They're standing out there. They're not engaging in the problem. They're the sacred resources there for when somebody has a mayday. So on deck is, they replace the RIC so that I can use on deck crews to help me manage my air supply and work rest cycle. Recycling. Traditional deployment. Engine 1 gets assigned in hazard zone. They're at the end of their work cycle. They're running out of air. There's still work to do in the hazard zone. They would contact the IC. They'd say, Engine 1 to command, I'm running out of air. We need to exit, and we're going to rehab. But we need to be replaced in here. Copy that, go to rehab. They leave, go to rehab. What's the routine look like at rehab? They're totally shredded, right? And then it's a culture, so the hunters go see the hunters, the fishermen see the fishermen, the youth talk about their weekend. How long does it take to get those people reassembled and back in the game? A long time, doesn't it? So we said, if you're assigned Alpha, you're going to recycle an Alpha, and you're going to keep your original division designation. So you're going to come out, you're going to change your bottles, drink 16 ounces of water, and very quickly fall back into that division as an on-deck company, ready to go. So we get 2 bottles out of the Phoenix Firefighter. And now when they do the second bottle, usually it's to rehab. But now I have the resources to keep my air management under control, and I have the resources to control the problem. And then the 3 deep is, I've got companies working on the fire. I've got companies right outside the warm zone ready to replace or react to any emergencies in there. And then I have level 1 and level 2 stage companies that I can replace my on-deck companies as I deploy them in the hazard zone. So, and then the call for help order is, if you look at all the maydays in our fire service that have been successfully mitigated, what percentage comes from, who has the highest percentage of saves? Is it a RIC crew? 80% of firefighter maydays are the firefighter self-rescues with the task level training investment that we've made, and it gives them the skill level to get out of a problem. That firefighter's company, another company in the hazard zone, or a combination of those 3. That's 80%. So do we use the help order by utilizing those interior companies? Where's our natural reaction when we hear mayday? Bonk. We dump in the on-deck RIC resources in it, where 80% of the saves are done on the interior, and we don't take advantage of that. John Hinton was one of our shift commanders. He had the 3 worst maydays in the world, and we were the outside-in mentality, just like the rest of the American Fire Service. He says, you guys are kidding yourself. What happens when someone says mayday on tactical channel to the other firefighters on the scene? It's like Pavlov's dog, mayday, mayday, mayday. What are they like? So the first companies there are the interior companies. So we need to take advantage of that and manage it. And you said it, is get there fast. Instead of sending outside people in there to locate or start packaging, who are the best people? And we never take advantage of that. What we did in Phoenix, all of our rescue drills was practice, and then if we had one, it was send in the RIC crews. And it was through the drilling process that we really realized how effective that was. On deck. You guys like on deck. Most places I go to, sticks and stones. And I've changed the name of blue card to black and blue card. Because when you talk about on deck with a lot of fire departments, it's just, and then they tell you you're against safety. We did not get rid of rapid intervention capabilities. We just deploy them in a different way. So here are your options. I assign you on deck, you are first and foremost a rapid intervention crew. So we cover all key tactical positions. 1, 2, 3. Or it could be 1. And then once that position is covered, all of them, because if I cover 2 and I have 3, and I got to take the third company out of that and have them stand outside, and I have a third attack position, could that third attack position that's not getting covered get on the first 2? So by me covering all key tactical positions, I'm making it safer. So we say once I've covered all those positions, is then I'm going to bring in all the other one-level resources proactively, and I'm going to have them stacked in every single operating position that I have. Usually you're relieving an existing crew. So the old routine when I go out to rehab, and Engine 5 comes in to replace me, what does Engine 5 encounter there? They got a large hose line in the ground, and that's the only information they have about any work that needs to be done in there. What does that do to their work cycle? It lengthens it, because they don't know what to do. It takes a long time to figure it out. They don't know the way to the work area. We're here, if I'm proactively sticking those companies at those entry points based on air, as they come out, I'm ready to replace. So what do I get? A face-to-face. Say, this is where you got to go to the back corner. You need to bring in some more pike poles, bring in salvage covers. Well, now I'm going in there. I might load it for bear now to replace that company. If you say, hey, I pulled ceiling and I got an attic fire and I need another company in here to reinforce me and bring in another tack line, that's a red flag, isn't it? If the fire isn't going out, how many fires go out with the first hand line? Offensive. 90? So now when I'm bringing other lines, let's say that other line gives me enough water to put it out. Solves the problem. But I don't have a crew rapidly assignable to help me put the fire out and make it safer. And I've got to wait a long time to reinforce that position. Is it making it safer? No, it's your best shot is putting water right on the fire. So reinforcing is a red flag, but it also gives the IC the capability to, it's the best shot at solving the problem. Cover a new position. You guys, the 2 houses that are going, first floor, the Delta neighbors going in the online program. If I'm on deck the first company in Alpha, and Delta asks for another company, it's very easy for that company to go over to Delta and engage. But if they're on a strip mall, and not on deck them on Alpha, and somebody needs something on Charlie, they're not going to hoof it around to Charlie. I'm going to reassign another company back there. But they're mine to do as I will. I can have you cover another position, make you rehab, whatever it is. So on deck, this is a proactive assignment system. Before that, I get everybody there and I leave everybody in staging. Now when I got all my positions covered on the fire ground, anybody in staging I'm going to bring up and I'm going to reinforce those attack positions. And I'm usually going to base it on the lowest air cylinder. So if I have 2 entry points, normally I would reinforce the first entry point with on deck because that company is the first one that's going to run out of air. It gives the division officer sufficient resources to get the job done. We have a rule that if you assign a third company to an attack position, you have to reinforce it with a command officer doing entry control. So they get there, they size it up, they figure out the work rest cycle they need to complete all the tactical priorities, and they get on the horn and they say, I need 2 more on deck companies in Alpha. They don't have to give long explanations anymore to justify the need for the resources. Just give me the companies and I'll figure out the details in my division. And what does that do to the radio traffic? It slams it down because it's all face-to-face. The IC now doesn't have to do the tactics for that division. I put it on them. It puts us in the best position to keep pace or ahead of. If it's offensive, I can keep ahead of it. If it's defensive, I'm going to get away from it. Now the crew's going to have face-to-face when they exit. It improves the standard work cycle. If engine 1's in there waiting to get relieved and there's no one outside, are they going to work longer? They are, because we are doers, man. I'm going to work until I run out of air. If I know I got another company out there to replace me very quickly, do I feel better leaving, doing a face-to-face? And then I know I'm going to recycle and I'm going to get back in the game. Firefighters want to work. And here it is again. It allows sector division officers to manage the detail of their sector without having to do it over the radio. And now that is a huge thing I just took off my plate and I give them to the divisions. This is my brother, position and function, a place for everyone in a place. When we did this transfer from Rick to OnDeck, it was the fastest operational change we ever made in the history of our department. Because our crews did not like the red carpet. You guys, no one raised their hand. So we were very disciplined. If there was a Mayday, an Alpha, and I had 2 OnDeck companies, they would not automatically deploy. Because they promised, when we started, we are not going to screw this up. So we will not engage unless the IC knows we're engaging, or they tell us to. The OnDeck model allows us to manage a Mayday just like we manage anything else. We don't have to have separate divisions. We don't have to rename anything. We don't need separate radio channels. What we have, we're going to use the same system to manage a Mayday, so I don't have to have a personality disorder. Schizophrenia, isn't it? 2 different personalities. Well, I've got the regular hazard zone one, but when somebody says Mayday, I got to like flip to this other personality. How often do we go to that one? Who's managed the Mayday in here? Wow, that's good. See, you guys are doing the front end stuff that prevents Maydays. If you guys had a Mayday, do you have a Mayday SOP? How hard would you do? Anyone, if you've never done it, to switch into the Mayday SOP here? It's going to screw things up. Start going in different channels when you've never done it in the middle of a fire attack. We practice it all at these drills. It doesn't work, man. It explodes right in front of you.
Welcome to the Command Deployment video. This video will take a detailed look at the OnDeck deployment model, the recycling procedure, and the 3-deep deployment process. This deployment process will assist the strategic level IC in maintaining a tactical manpower reserve, manage the work-rest cycle of companies in the hazard zone, and will assist you in reacting to sudden, unplanned events on the fireground, such as firefighter maydays. These practices will also make the emergency scene a much more effective and safer place. OnDeck was developed to address the career-long problem of relieving and reinforcing the initial companies assigned to the hazard zone for sustaining an uninterrupted offensive fire attack. Traditionally, this was done by using level 1 and 2 staged companies after the initial interior units reported to command that they were at the end of their work cycle, needed to exit the structure with some form of the problem still existing, and they needed to be replaced. The IC would then contact stage companies and have them report to the positions from which the other companies were being vacated and had reached the end of their work cycle. This scenario presents several problems that the OnDeck deployment model addresses. Problem number 1. Generally speaking, the key tactical positions on the typical fireground are covered by the first alarm units, 4 engines, and 2 ladder companies. Most of the later arriving units assigned to the incident will use these initial key positions for equipment and hand lines. Crews that are level 1 or 2 staged basically use their apparatus as a taxi to arrive to the location close to the incident site when they are utilized for manpower. Any attempt by those companies to use their apparatus to get closer to the scene after being assigned to the incident will usually just cause more unwanted congestion around the incident site. Problem number 2 is transit time. This is defined as the amount of time it takes for a staged company from the time they receive an order to the time they arrive in the proper location and start working. On a good day, this will take at least 5 minutes, and depending on the complexity of the incident scene, it could take over 10 minutes. Problem number 3 feeds off the last problem. Crews requesting relief who are at the end of their work cycle are reluctant to vacate the structure when active problems in their assigned area still exist with no immediate relief. Not having quick relief in operational sectors will lengthen company work cycles, even further depleting their air supply, and it may also impact their ability to safely exit the structure. Problem number 4. The crews that are relieving the positions that have been vacated basically have little to no information about the interior of the structure. Not having a face-to-face with the exiting crews about the conditions and configuration of their assigned area leaves the relief crew at a severe operational disadvantage. Problem number 5 is the biggest problem and a culmination of the first 4 problems. This problem happens when an interior crew gets into some kind of trouble. This could range from a crew needing to be reinforced immediately to a Mayday distress call for help. The delay to get staged companies into operational positions puts the IC at a disadvantage in reacting to these types of situations. This problem can and has been compounded by on-site working crews with depleted air supplies, reacting to these calls for help, which can create even more distress calls. OnDeck will help address many of these issues, and it puts the IC in a much better position to manage the work rest cycle, accountability process, and escalating or sudden incident problems. OnDeck is basically a forward staging position located just outside the immediate hazard zone, safely distanced from the entrance of a tactical position. On-deck crews will be supervised either by the IC or a sector officer, and they will remain on deck until assigned to one of 4 tasks. Reinforce a position within an assigned sector. Crew relief in an assigned sector. Any other tactical position as assigned by the IC. And they also can be used as a rapid intervention crew. Once the IC has initially deployed units to the critical areas around the incident scene, they must then take a proactive approach to assigning additional resources to these critical sectors and companies around the fireground that will need to be reinforced or relieved. This is best achieved by assigning staged resources as on-deck crews to those areas as soon as they are available before getting the request for that additional resource. Layering on-deck crews around the fireground also provides the IC with the tactical reserves to address sudden incident changes or distress calls for help. On-deck crews stationed around the work site will help prevent the mad dash of companies auto-assigning themselves to these problems, with many of them not being in a ready state or operating with depleted air supplies. Assigning on-deck crews is done simply by contacting a staged company and directing them to go on deck in a specific location or sector. The order would sound something like this. Command to Engine 5. I want you to go on deck on the north side of the structure. Use Engine 1 for your resource and accountability location. You'll be working under North Sector. A crew assigned to an on-deck position out of staging will need to park their apparatus in a manner that doesn't block access to the scene, get fully turned out, collect the necessary tools and equipment, and then travel intact to their assigned location. Once arriving at their assigned location, the on-deck company will then contact the IC or their sector boss and inform them that they are on deck at their assigned location and are ready to go to work. On-deck crews must remain intact, ready to go to work, and monitor the tactical frequency at all times. Before being assigned inside the hazard zone, the on-deck company's primary responsibility is that of a RIC crew. Once the on-deck company arrives in their assigned sector, they must size up the area where they are assigned, noting all of the structure's entrance and exit points in their sector, interior and exterior conditions, what crews are operating inside the structure, their approximate locations in the interior, and what hand lines from which they are operating. This pre-plan will greatly assist the on-deck crew, not only for the future work in reinforcing the sector, but also if they are used as a rapid intervention crew. When an on-deck crew is used as a relief crew, the on-deck company officer should do a face-to-face with the exiting officer and ascertain the interior conditions, the best routing to the work area, any interior obstacles, additional tools that may be required, and what type of tasks are required to complete the sector's objectives. As you can see, the on-deck deployment model solves many deployment issues. It also gives the IC an on-scene tactical reserve that is ready to go to work quickly and address a multitude of incident problems. Recycling. Companies operating within a sector will require the refilling of air and fluid replacement in predictable timeframes. At large-scale incidents, Command will establish at least one rehab sector. Most of the time, crews that are assigned to rehab will be placed back in service after rehabbing. The rehab sector may be located quite a distance from the work area, and this distance creates the potential for Command to lose direct accountability of the companies in transit to rehab and the difficulty of reassembling and reassigning crews in a timely manner from rehab. Recycling is defined as a timely and efficient means of air replacement and rehydration of companies while maintaining their original sector assignment. If conditions permit, a company's work cycle could be up to 2 to 3 air cylinders. In order to maintain a steady stream of resource in critical sectors, crews being relieved and exiting their sector should recycle themselves in a timely manner. Companies being relieved and recycled will remain in their assigned sector, refill their air supply, and rehydrate, then report back to their sector officer or the IC that they are on deck and ready to go to work. Company officers should forecast the length of time they will be working in an assigned sector and should bring spare air cylinders if necessary. This will enable a company to recycle close to their sector in a timely manner when a utility truck is not available in their sector or area. The sector officer may need to request additional resources from command to replace an on-deck crew or have recycled crews assume vacated on-deck positions. Sector and company officers are responsible to monitor the welfare of their personnel at all times and determine if sector recycling or a formal rehab is appropriate. The 3 deep concept. Most tactical firefighting deaths on the fireground are related to 2 things: thermal insult or getting lost in the hazard zone and running out of air. A firefighter's survivability depends upon staying connected to a hose line and managing their air supply. This is especially true when working in larger commercial structures. It is the IC, sector officers, and company officers' responsibilities to manage their company's air supply so that interior units will have a reserve air supply in the event that something goes wrong. The 3 deep concept forms an uninterrupted chain of working firefighters. It begins when the initial company takes action. The working company is quickly backed up by assigning an on-deck company within their assigned sector area. Staged companies become the 3rd piece of this deployment model. Working companies are quickly relieved by on-deck units. As the IC anticipates this rotation, he brings a staged unit to an on-deck position within that sector. The relieved company will recycle, then quickly fall back into an on-deck position in their assigned sector. Assigning sector officer responsibility to later arriving response chiefs escalates sector management and supervision to the tactical level. Chief officers will typically locate themselves just outside the entrance in a hazard zone and manage the sector from that position. This puts a tactical boss in place that manages the work of multiple companies, monitors the incident conditions, and reports progress and exceptions back to command. Connecting the standard work cycle with the layering of resources provides sector officers with the manpower required to safely conduct operations within their assigned sector. This also creates a system that can quickly respond to and resolve firefighter mayday situations more effectively than traditional rapid intervention systems. Most rapid intervention systems placed a single RIC on standby in the event of a mayday. An on-deck approach to sector operations places ready-to-go companies in each active hazard zone sector. These on-deck companies are backed up by staged and recycling units. Each active sector is quickly assigned to a response chief, placing strong supervision and management within the sector. Traditional rapid intervention systems manage maydays from the outside in, but in reality, most firefighter maydays are handled from the inside out. The crews that are already in place and operating as part of the regular incident operation prior to the mayday occurring are generally the crews that actually perform the most mayday rescues. This initial effort is then reinforced with outside help coming in the